Here's what's coming up on The World Today. US President and his Democratic rival Joe Biden started in their first presidential debate as race to the White House hots up. European countries seeing an upsurge in the number of coronavirus cases, requiring additional measures to keep the numbers as low as possible. Plus, Kuwait's new emir, Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmad Al Sabah, takes the oath of office. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Well, let's kick off then. We can finally start now. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says it's time for countries to start using money from their national COVID-19 recovery and response plan to help fund the World Health Organization's global vaccine plan. The Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator Program and its COVAX facility has so far received $3 billion, but needs another $35 billion. It aims to deliver 2 billion doses of coronavirus vaccines by the end of next year, 245 million treatments and 500 million tests. We'll have that soundbite in a moment. Meanwhile, the Air Transport Action Group says as many as 46 million jobs could be lost globally because of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The group says the total shutdown of the industry for several months, the slow recovery and the stop-start nature of the reopening means air travel will not recover to pre-COVID-19 levels until around 2024. The group's executive director, Michael Gill, says analysts shows that up to 4.8 million jobs in aviation may be lost by the beginning of next year, a 43% reduction from pre-COVID levels. Let's take a look at what's going on in Europe now. European countries have been seeing a surge in coronavirus cases, with many of them reporting record daily increase. This comes as the 1 million mark for coronavirus deaths globally surpassed 1 million, and efforts towards developing a vaccine intensifies. There's more on this and other developments on our COVID-19 Global Update.
Israel's parliament has approved a government-backed edict that is likely to stifle protests against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over alleged corruption and his handling of the coronavirus crisis. The legislation, ratified after an all-night debate in the Knesset, banned Israelis from holding demonstrations more than 1 kilometer from their homes, a measure the government says is aimed at curbing COVID-19 infections. Critics of the new measure, which becomes part of Israel's second national lockdown, argue that it is really intended to block protests near Netanyahu's official residence in Jerusalem. For weeks, thousands of demonstrators have gathered to call for Netanyahu's resignation. Healthcare workers in Peru took to the streets in Lima on Tuesday to protest labor conditions while out on the front lines of the country's battle with the pandemic. Protesters gathered outside the Ribagliati hospital to demand better working conditions and pay. Meanwhile, Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra on Tuesday paid a visit to the National University of San Marcos, where clinical tests of the Sinopharm vaccine against COVID-19 are taking place. Peru has recorded nearly 808,714 cases of the coronavirus, the sixth highest caseload in the world. Meanwhile, North Korea's media on Wednesday said that leader Kim Jong-un reviewed anti-coronavirus measures, adding that participants found some faults in their implementation. A state-run television, KRT, aired a video of Kim holding a meeting of the ruling Workers' Party Parfut Politburo on Tuesday, September 29. KRT did not elaborate on the faults. North Korea has not confirmed any coronavirus infections and has imposed strict virus control measures, including closing its borders, although South Korea and the United States doubt that it has managed to avoid the pandemic completely. And researchers say results from an early safety study of Moderna Inc.'s coronavirus vaccine in older adults shows that it produced virus-neutralizing antibodies at levels similar to those seen in younger adults, with the side effects roughly at par with high-dose flu shots. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine offers a more complete picture of the vaccine's safety in older adults, a group at increased risk of severe complications from COVID-19.
Away from the COVID-19 pandemic, the presidential debate, the first for Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Did he bring it last night as he clashed with President Donald Trump on the economy, coronavirus and climate change? President Trump was challenged over white supremacist support and refused to outrightly condemn a specific far-right group. It's just 35 days until Election Day, and Americans have a lot to think about. Our correspondent, Maria Bird, has more in this report.
This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing.
Did a crime bill, 1994. Where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country.
Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Maria Bird joins me now. Maria, what did Americans make of the debate last night?
Well, this debate was one that I think that many Americans were not surprised about, but more so disappointed in. It was a debate that is like no other that any American has seen before. When you look at the lack of ability to focus on the issues and really the back and forth that went on, many Americans were just deeply disappointed in what occurred yesterday evening. And many are even speculating that we might not see more debates and that this could be the determining factor for many of those who were on the fence for President Trump. This might be that determining factor for them to switch parties and to vote for the Democrat, Joe Biden.
You know, speaking of those undecided voters, supporters on both sides keenly listened to the debate, as were undecided voters who might appear to, still remain undecided after last night. Talk to us about how much impact each candidate made and the news discussions emerging from the debate.
Yes, well, the major discussions yesterday evening were to focus on the economy, focus on race relations, which I think kind of took the focal point of the night. And many people are just remembering the comment and the inability for President Trump to denounce white supremacy. And so that was definitely the most, I think, pivotal moments of the debate. There was conversations around voting and whether or not the ballots were going to be falsified or whether or not we were going to trust the ballots. There was conversations about the Supreme Court and the potential pick of President Trump for the Supreme Court. There were conversations around their COVID-19 response on behalf of the president, how he responded to COVID-19, healthcare. I mean, they hit every single issue, I think, that has been very important to the American public and for this election 2020. But again, the substance of the debate and really being able to fact check and see if this is what's going to be best for America, not sure if that happened because there was such a real focus on the aggression and the back and forth rhetoric that went on throughout the night.
There are still two more debates before the election. Do you think Americans are looking forward to those and haven't witnessed the first one? And I mean, a lot of questions were addressed yesterday, but I don't really think Americans got a lot of answers. So in these upcoming two debates, what line of questions is expected to be taken then?
Well, many are questioning what will really happen with these next two debates. I mean, we know that for this debate, there were rules agreed upon by both parties, by both campaigns, but many of those rules were not adhered to. So how will we ensure that something like this does not happen again is going to be the question, because you're exactly right. Americans want to know the responses to things that are affecting them each and every day. Those who are out of work due to COVID-19, those who are at home with children that are still not in a physical school building, those that are concerned about their health, those are concerned about health care. So there's so many real issues that I think Americans are looking for answers to. And so hopefully the next two debates will address those. But the question is, will we even get to those next two debates coming here in the next few weeks?
So 35 days until the big day. Maria, how is campaigning going on both sides?
Well, as we know, President Trump has been holding rallies, and that will continue. We know that presidential candidate Joe Biden has been more virtual in nature, but he is going to definitely pick up on his campaigning. Starting today, you'll begin to see, I think, more of an active role in campaigning from the Democratic Party for presidential candidate Joe Biden.
All right, then, Maria, a lot to look forward to. I mean, the vice presidents will be sparring off next week as well. So it's going to be very interesting how that pans out as well. Thanks once again, Maria, for joining us, and do stay safe.
Thank you.
Well, as the presidential candidates head back to the campaign trail, international election observers have arrived in the United States and say they plan to remain in the country until mid-November, but could stay longer if there are issues with the ballot count. Head of mission for the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights says with concerns on all sides about the process of the election, it's more important to have a neutral, non-partisan group of international observers take account of the entire process before, during, and after Election Day.
So we will be, first of all, we are operating here and now in the legal framework that applies, and we are going to comply with that fully. And essentially, nobody should have any concerns about that. Ourselves, the long-term and the short-term observers, we will comply with those restrictions that are put upon us. We will abide by those conditions. However, looking at the general situation, it is in breach, actually, of international commitments not to give access to international observers. This is something the United States has committed to as a participating state in the OSCE.
Still ahead on the program. Remember Sound of Music or Mary Poppins? Julie Andrews, its main character, turns 85. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Still on the heated U.S. presidential debate. Earlier, our correspondent, Maria Bird, sent in a report of the major highlights. Take a look.
President Trump and Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden square off for the first presidential debate of the 2020 election season.
In the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already begun.
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
there's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you just
don't know her view on Roe v. Wade.
I don't.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of Obama. That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe.
So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised.
Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's
I
far
did.
left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it.
when
And that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying-
the fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree,
want to
and
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
Are you going to pack the...
And he does take advantage of the tax cut. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts, and I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts, and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just say, Joe, I've done more in...
One of the major areas of focus during the debate was race relations in America. During this discussion, President Trump failed to denounce white supremacists.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
white supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left.
FBI director
This is a left.
This debate was a moment of disappointment and shame for many Americans as they watched what many are calling the most chaotic presidential debate in modern history.
Myself, as a voter with a made-up mind, I was not swayed in either direction for either candidate. I already know who I'm voting for. But I will say that Trump came out looking like a big bully. He didn't have answers to questions, and in lieu of having answers, he would steamroll the conversation, start controversy, go low, bring up Biden's son who was on drugs, which Biden admitted and said that he's overcome that now. While at the same time, I feel that Biden looked strong and competent and had good, capable, coherent answers to the question from the moderator, and not trying to argue, and was trying to just give good answers to the people and let the people know that he is the best candidate for our country. So overall, I look forward to the next debate and seeing how this election will pan out.
I get a feeling for the race and the dynamic between the two of them. The other thing is that a lot of people are voting, and they're going to be voting more in October as these debates go on. So for whatever, small group of Americans who are making up their mind, that group is going to get smaller as these debates go on. And
There are still many questions left unanswered after tonight's debate, but it is clear that many have made some clear decisions on who they will vote for in the coming election. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channel Television News.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says China is the worst country in the world for attacking religious freedoms. His comments come shortly after arriving in Rome for a two-day visit that will include meetings with Italian and Vatican officials.
Nowhere, however, nowhere is religious freedom under assault more than it is inside of China today. That's because, as with all communist regimes, the Chinese Communist Party deems itself the ultimate moral authority. An increasingly repressive CCP, frightened by its own lack of democratic legitimacy, works day and night to snuff out the lamp of freedom, especially religious freedom, on a horrifying scale. I spoke on this topic last year for a bit, and I paid special attention last year to the Uyghur Muslims of Xinjiang. But they're not the only victims. The Chinese Communist Party has battered every religious community in China. Protestant house churches, Tibetan Buddhists, Falun Gong devotees, and more. Nor, of course, have Catholics been spared this wave of repression. Catholic churches and shrines have been desecrated and destroyed. Catholic bishops, like Augustine Shui Tai,
have been imprisoned as if priests in Italy. And Catholic lay leaders in the human rights movement, not least in Hong Kong, have been arrested.
Prior to joining the Trump.
Now, Kuwait's new emir, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, has taken his oath of office in Parliament. Sheikh Nawaf was sworn in yesterday following the death of his brother, Sheikh Sabah, who was aged 91. Sheikh Nawaf pledged to work for the Gulf Arab states' prosperity and stability and calling for unity ranks in the face of challenges. The cabinet of the OPEC oil producer and U.S. ally swiftly named the designated successor, Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf, as new ruler on Tuesday following the death of Sheikh Sabah, whose body is due to arrive in Kuwait on Wednesday from the United States, where he had been hospitalized since July. The funeral has been restricted to ruling family members due to COVID-19 concerns. When the previous emir, Sheikh Jabbar Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, died in 2006, thousands of Kuwaitis attended the funeral and many lined the streets.
Julie, this way! Julie! I'm sorry, Julie! One picture!
Well, call her Mary Poppins, call her Maria, and you're sure to get a smile. The famous Most Loved Person who plays those characters, Julie Andrews, turns 85 on Thursday. The British actress and star of the much-loved 1964 film about a mysterious nanny who comes to the rescue of a London family in crisis was born in 1935 in Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, southeast England. She began her career as a child actress on the London West End before heading to Broadway. Andrews won an Oscar in 1965 for playing the strict but kind-hearted nanny Mary Poppins opposite Dick Van Dyke's chimney sweep character, Bert, and bank manager role, Mr. Dawes Sr. in the same film. Van Dyke, who stars in 2018 film Mary Poppins, returns opposite Emily Blunt's Mary Poppins, called Andrews in 2001 Disney tribute to her, royalty in every sense of the word, and one great broad. A happy birthday to her in advance. Now, news just in. Starting from Thursday, October the 1st, South Africa will reopen its airspace to international travel after about 6 months. However, 57 countries have been barred, and that includes the United States, UK, Russia, France, Kuwait, and Qatar. A PCR test of no more than 72 hours is also required. All 54 African countries are also allowed into the country. We'll have more details on this as soon as we get them. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shibuali.